And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and if you can tell, I'm not in the studio because I'm actually in Canada at Plan B headquarters. And what we have here is we're taking a preview look at a game that's coming from one of their brands, Next Move. These are simple, easy games to get into. The first game in this brand has already been released, Azul. This is a sequel to that. Not really, I mean, it's the next game in the line, and that's Reef. So Reef is a game about building your own little reef. And I figured, since I mess up rules often enough, that in this case, we're going to have Emerson, the designer of the game, explain how to play it.
The object of the game of Reef is to get the most points. And each player is going to start off with a player board. You would shuffle these and deal them out, and the player with the starfish will be the start player. Okay. On your turn, you're going to have one of two actions that you can take. The first action you could take is that you could simply take a card. Okay. There will be a stack of cards face up and 3 of them laid out. Each player is also going to start with a hand of 2 cards. So on your turn, you can take one of these cards for free, or you could decide you want to take the top card from the face up deck, in which case players will have a handful of points. When you take the top card off this deck, you would simply place 1 point on the one with the lowest value. If you take the card that's got points on it, you take the points along with it, and then it gets replaced. Okay. The second thing you can do is that you can play a card. When you play a card, for instance, I will use this card as an example. When you play this card, it has 2 portions. The top portion will tell you what pieces you take from the supply. There are 4 different types of pieces. So here you would simply take 2 green pieces and you could place them anywhere on your board, and you can even stack them on top of each other. The only rule that you have to consider is that once you've placed a piece, you cannot move that piece. So that stays on your board. So you're not allowed to rearrange your coral. The other portion of the card is the lower portion. This portion is where you actually score. So I'll put pieces just as an example here. So this top portion allows you to take 2 green pieces and place it on your board, and then you would score, after you place the pieces, you would score the bottom portion. So here you would score for this pattern, and as you can see, there's actually 2 of these patterns. You'll notice that there is a third pattern, but one piece cannot be used for multiple instances of that pattern. So in this case, you would score 4 points for each pattern. So in this case, you would score 8 points, and that gets discarded. Now the game will continue until one pile of these pieces is out, in which case you finish out the round, and the player who has the most points is the winner. And that's simply the game. So let's go over some of the ways that you could score for the points. These will score based on a diagonal pattern. This card over here will allow you to score 3 points for each green next to a yellow, and it doesn't depend on how tall it is. This card here will give you 5 points for each stack of coral that is 4 high. So for instance, if you had something like this, if you had 2 stacks like this, you would score 10 points. And there's all different kinds of combinations. This will allow you to score 6 points if you have them in a pattern like this. When you're looking at the scoring portions of the card, keep in mind that you're looking at your coral from a top-down perspective, and you would score just for the pieces that are on top. So the end of the game is triggered when one color of coral runs out. At that point, you finish out the round, and then you would calculate whatever cards that you still have in your hand. You would lay them out, and you would score the bottom portion of the cards that you have. You do not get the benefit of the top portions, but you score each of them, the bottom portions, but you can only score them a maximum of once. And then you calculate your points, and whoever has the most points is the winner.
Okay, so thanks Emerson for showing us how to do that. Just as a reminder, all the components and cards you saw, some of that is pretty close to the final product, but it is still like an alpha prototype, so there might be some changes. But these pieces are pretty cool. The way they stack, they're really easy to tell apart. for me, the visual colors, but if you have trouble telling the colors apart, the shapes of the coral. And just the act of stacking them, they feel really good. The plastic, same kind of plastic you use to make dice and such. Reef, you can tell Emerson is the designer of this game. He's the same designer of Century. There's some similarities to that with the cards. But what makes this game kind of fascinating is how the cards themselves, you are playing them to put the pieces out and scoring them at the same time. You have a hand limit of 4 cards, so what you're trying to do is build that hand of cards so that you can play them in order to build the pieces and then score. You want to score buku amounts of points, and in fact this game gives me almost a sense of ABS, which is always be scoring. You know, I need a score every time I play a card. Not necessarily, but you're trying to make a combo like, okay, this card lets me play orange pieces, this one lets me score for orange pieces, but lets me play yellow pieces, and this card lets me play yellow pieces. And sometimes you'll find yourself with a vicious circle, and you'll go, well, which one of these do I play first? Or do I want to play this now for points, or do I want to build it up? Oh, the choices are great. This is a fantastic little game. Now, I realize I'm just going off of a play or two here of the game. So our final review will be after the game is published. But for now, I'm really excited about this one. I haven't enjoyed a simple game like this since the last time I played one of these, which was Century. And so it's really cool. Definitely check it out. It's coming out later this year. That's Reef from Plan B Games. Next move.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.